There is a town in California so scarred by child murders that every single resident voted to erase the town's name from the map. They changed it, they moved on. But still, the street signs kept the old name. Google Maps still kept the old name. California has a cursed ghost town where park rangers maintain binders full of apology letters from people who stole souvenirs and then watched their lives fall apart. A mining camp where someone was murdered every week, and the current owner, who lives there alone, reports seeing apparitions in abandoned buildings. A chemical plant town so bleak that Hollywood uses it as a ready-made film set for the apocalypse without changing a single thing. A World War II internment camp where the government imprisoned its own citizens, declared martial law, pressured thousands to renounce their citizenship, and then tried to bulldoze the evidence. And a ghost town in the Redwoods where the caretaker chased trespassers with a shotgun loaded with rock salt. Every one of these places is real. Everyone is in California. And you have probably driven past at least two of them without knowing. Like this video if you have ever looked at a town on Google Maps and thought it seemed normal. Subscribe because this video did the research that you don't need to. Let's get started. Number 12, Saltdale. In the Mojave Desert along Highway 14, there's a town being eaten by the thing that created it. Saltdale was a thriving salt mining community from the early 1900s through the 1940s. Families lived here, kids went to school here. The salt industry boomed. Then it did not. Families left one by one. The salt factory shut down permanently in 1975. And then the salt started doing what salt does. It corroded the structures, dissolved the foundations, reclaimed the ground. The desert wind carries salt dust across what remains. The landscape is white, flat, and barren. Nothing grows, nothing. The ground is so saturated that it has become a permanent biological dead zone. Translation: the product that built this town is now chemically digesting it. Saltdale is not decaying, it is being dissolved. Would you visit a town that is being eaten by its own industry? Or does that feel like a metaphor you are not ready for? Number 11, Amboy. On historic Route 66 in the Mojave Desert, there's a town that consists of 3 buildings at a crossroad. Roy's Motel and Cafe still has its iconic Googie sign. A gas station operates sometimes. The population has hovered in single digits for years. When Interstate 40 opened in the 1970s, it bypassed Amboy and the traffic vanished overnight. The town should have disappeared entirely. It did not. One man, Albert Okura, founder of the Juan Pollo restaurant chain, bought the entire town in 2005 for $425,000. That is less than a studio apartment in San Francisco. Here is what nobody tells you. The isolation that killed Amboy's economy also made it attractive to people who did not want to be found. Multiple violent crimes have been linked to the empty desert surrounding the town. The silence at midday is not peaceful. It is the kind of silence that makes you check your mirrors. Number 10, Trona. If Saltdale is being eaten by salt and Amboy is a crossroad with a body count, Trona is what happens when a chemical plant builds an entire town and then the town starts to look like the chemicals won. Located at the southern end of Tule Lake near Death Valley, Trona was founded in 1914 as a company town for mineral extraction. The plant still dominates the skyline, pulling chemicals from a toxic lake. The air smells like industry. The buildings are deteriorating. The population has been declining for decades. Then, the 2019 earthquake, a 7.1 magnitude event, hit Trona and damaged much of the town's remaining infrastructure. Residents described feeling abandoned by their own county. The nearest hospital is over 60 miles away. Here is the detail that makes Trona genuinely surreal. Hollywood uses Trona and the nearby Trona Pinnacles as a filming location for post-apocalyptic movies. Planet of the Apes, Star Trek V, Gattaca. They chose Trona because it already looks like civilization ended. No set dressing required. The Trona Pinnacles are bizarre tufa formations rising from a dry lake bed, like the ruins of an alien city. Combined with the chemical plant, the toxic lake, and the earthquake damage, the entire area feels like a place where the present gave up and the past refused to leave. Would you stop in Trona on a road trip, or would you lock the doors and keep driving? Number 9. Falk. Deep in the redwood forests of Humboldt County, south of Eureka, there was once a thriving lumber company town called Falk. The Elk River Mill and Lumber Company built the town, built the houses, built the school, built the store. And when the timber market collapsed during the Great Depression, the company shut the mill in 1937 and walked away. The workers were on their own. Most residents fled. But here's the part that makes Falk different from every other ghost town on this list. They left their belongings behind. Clothes in closets, dishes on tables, family photographs on walls, as if they expected to come back. They never did. The redwoods, the same trees the lumber company had been cutting down, grew back. They grew over the houses, over the foundations, over the personal belongings. The forest consumed the town that had consumed the forest. A caretaker was hired to guard the ruins from treasure seekers and teenagers. According to the Save the Redwoods League, he chased people with a shotgun loaded with rock salt. In 1979, the logging company returned, not to rebuild, but to demolish everything that remained so they could avoid liability. Today, almost nothing is visible above ground. You can walk through where Falk stood without knowing it. The railroad grade is the only clue that hundreds of people once lived under what is now a canopy of silence. Picture this. You are hiking through old-growth redwoods. The light filters through a canopy so dense the forest floor is dim at midday. You step over what you think is a mossy rock. It is a foundation. You're standing in someone's living room. They left 70 years ago, and the forest grew a roof over their absence. Number 8. Skidoo. High in the Panamint Mountains of Death Valley, at roughly 5,600 feet, there is a mining town famous for the only lynching in Death Valley history. And a detail so macabre, it sounds like someone made it up to see if you were paying attention. Gold was discovered here in 1906. By 1907, Skidoo had 700 residents, a newspaper, a telephone line, and a 23-mile pipeline carrying water from Birch Spring. The town produced over $1.5 million in gold. The town's name came from the 1890s expression 23 Skidoo, meaning get out while the getting is good. Nobody took the advice. In 1908, a man named Joe Simpson shot and killed Jim Arnold, a popular local storekeeper, during a drunken confrontation. The miners did not wait for law enforcement. Law enforcement was several days away. They hanged Simpson from a telephone pole. That is not the disturbing part. The disturbing part is what happened next. According to local lore that has been repeated for over a century, a reporter from the Rhyolite Herald arrived too late to photograph the hanging. So the townspeople dug up Simpson's body and hanged it again. So the reporter could get his picture. Whether this is fully true or embellished over time is debated. What is not debated is that nobody in Death Valley disputes it. The story has been the defining narrative of Skidoo for over 100 years. Reaching Skidoo today requires a high-clearance vehicle and serious desert driving knowledge. Stone foundations and the ruins of a massive stamp mill scatter across the mountainside. You can stand where 700 people once lived and see nothing but empty desert in every direction. Be honest. Does the re-hanging story make you want to visit or make you want to stay very far away? If you've made it this far, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel and sharing this video with your friends and families. It's completely free, and we bring new videos about our country. Number 7. Darwin. Between Death Valley and the Owens Valley in Inyo County, there is a town that is simultaneously alive and dead. Darwin was founded during a prospecting expedition and once supported over 3,500 residents mining lead, silver, and zinc. Today, roughly 35 to 50 people remain. The Darwin post office still operates. Mail is delivered. The U.S. Postal Service serves a community that is outnumbered by its own empty buildings. Here is what makes Darwin unsettling in a way that is different from a fully abandoned ghost town. You can peer through the windows of abandoned houses and see personal belongings left behind. Furniture, clothing, kitchen items, family photographs still on shelves. The people who left did not pack. The people who stayed describe living in a permanent state of departure, surrounded by the evidence that most of their neighbors already went. One visitor described walking down a street in Darwin where 2 houses had lights on, 3 were completely abandoned with items visible inside, and 1 had a "for sale" sign that looked like it had been there for a decade. The contrast between inhabited homes and abandoned mining structures creates what multiple visitors have called one of the most uniquely unsettling atmospheres in California. It is not a ghost town. It is a town where the ghosts and the living share the same zip code. Number 6, Llano del Rio. If the previous towns died because resources ran out, Llano del Rio died because a dream ran out. In 1914, a socialist politician named Job Harriman founded the Llano del Rio cooperative colony in the Antelope Valley at the edge of the Mojave Desert. Harriman had just lost the 1911 Los Angeles mayoral race, partly because his campaign was derailed by the McNamara brothers bombing trial. He retreated to the desert to build what capitalism could not, a perfect society. For 4 years, it actually worked, more or less. Over 1,000 people lived in the colony. They had a newspaper called The Western Comrade, workshops, a hotel, a school, communal dining halls. The colony's motto was "Gateway to Freedom." Here is what nobody tells you about gateways in the desert. They need water. The wells started failing. The county refused to grant additional water rights. Internal divisions between socialists, individualists, and various factions tore at the community from within. By 1918, the dream was over. Most colonists relocated to a new colony in Louisiana. That one also failed. Harriman died in 1925, 7 years after his utopia collapsed, having never rebuilt his political career or his vision. Today, the ruins of Llano del Rio are a California historical landmark. Number 933, you can see them from Pear Blossom Highway. A stone fireplace, concrete foundations, the remains of communal buildings standing in desert scrub. The stone chimney is the most recognizable structure. It stands alone in the Mojave like a monument to a dream that evaporated along with the water that was supposed to sustain it. One historian described Llano del Rio as, "What happens when people love an idea more than they understand the land they are standing on?" The colony that was supposed to prove cooperation could replace competition proved instead that the desert does not care about your political theory. Picture this. You are driving Highway 138 through the Antelope Valley. The Mojave stretches flat and dry in every direction. You pass a stone chimney standing alone in the scrub. No building attached to it, no town around it, just a fireplace with nothing left to warm. 1,000 people once ate breakfast together within sight of this spot. They believed they were building a better world. The water disagreed. Would you join a commune in the desert if someone told you it was the gateway to freedom? Or does that phrase immediately make you suspicious? If you think a failed utopia is unsettling, the next town has actual ghosts, or at least the man who lives there alone thinks so. Number 5, Cerro Gordo. If Llano del Rio was a dream that ran out of water, Cerro Gordo is a nightmare that never ran out of ghosts. Perched at 8,500 feet in the Inyo Mountains, above the dry bed of Owens Lake, this silver mining town was founded in 1867 and produced millions of dollars in silver and lead that helped build early Los Angeles. The name means fat hill in Spanish. The hill was indeed fat with metal. It was also fat with violence. At its peak, someone was murdered in Cerro Gordo approximately once per week. The mines claimed at least 30 lives. Saloons, brothels, and gunfights were the baseline social experience. A minister who visited Bodie during the same era described that town as a sea of sin, lashed by the tempests of lust and passion. Cerro Gordo was worse. And then there is Brent Underwood. In 2018, Underwood and a partner purchased the entire ghost town. Underwood moved in and began living there, mostly alone, at 8,500 feet with no cell service, documenting the experience on YouTube. The nearest town is Keeler, which is itself nearly abandoned. The isolation is not a feature. It is the entire personality of the location. Here is where it gets strange. Underwood has reported lights turning on in abandoned buildings with no electricity, books tumbling from shelves. and a shadowy apparition that both he and a previous caretaker independently reported seeing in the kitchen of the American Hotel. The American Hotel was built on June 15, 1871. On June 15, 2020, exactly 149 years later, it burned to the ground. Hours before the fire, Underwood reported the apparition sighting. The fire's cause has never been definitively determined. One person who visited Cerro Gordo described the experience as standing in a place where the past is not finished with the present. The winding road up from the Owens Valley floor requires a high-clearance vehicle. The views of the valley are spectacular. The 22 remaining structures creak in the wind. The mine shafts, some hundreds of feet deep, are open holes in the ground nearby. At night, the darkness is absolute. No light pollution. The Milky Way is extraordinary. Every sound is amplified by the silence. And somewhere in those abandoned buildings, according to the man who owns the town and sleeps in it alone, something moves. Would you spend a night alone in a ghost town where the owner reports paranormal activity and the hotel burned down on its own anniversary? Be honest. Number 4, Ballarat. If Cerro Gordo has ghosts from the 1800s, Ballarat has ghosts from the 1960s. And those ghosts are much worse. Ballarat sits on the western edge of Death Valley at the base of the Panamint Mountains. Founded in 1897 as a supply hub for nearby mining operations, the town declined as the mines closed and was effectively abandoned by the 1920s. Weathered adobe walls, rusted vehicles, a small cemetery, standard ghost town material for this part of California. But Ballarat is not on this list because of mining history. Ballarat is on this list because of Charles Manson. In 1968 and 1969, the Manson family used the nearby Barker Ranch as their hideout. Members passed through Ballarat regularly for supplies. The town was the last point of contact between the family and the outside world. After the Tate LaBianca murders in August 1969, law enforcement tracked the Manson family to the Barker Ranch through Ballarat. The town's isolation, deep in Death Valley with only a single rough road in and out, is exactly what made it useful to 19th century miners. It is also exactly what made it useful to a 20th century cult planning murders. The same remoteness that kills a town also hides the people you do not want to find. For decades, a caretaker named Rocky Novak maintained Ballarat alone, greeting visitors, keeping the guest register, and becoming a local legend. Rocky died in 2015. The guest register continues. Visitors still sign in. One person who visited described the experience of signing a guest book in a place where Charles Manson once walked for supplies as deeply, irrationally unsettling. Picture this. You are standing in a ghost town in Death Valley. The adobe walls shimmer in heat that exceeds 110 degrees. A cemetery sits nearby. You sign a guest register that has been maintained for decades by a now-dead caretaker. Behind you, a dirt road leads deeper into the Panamints, toward a ranch where one of the most notorious criminals in American history hid from the world. The road is passable if you have the right vehicle. You do not take it. You get back in your car and you drive very quickly in the opposite direction. The isolation is real. The history is too. Would you drive the dirt road to the Barker Ranch? Or is the guest register at Ballarat close enough to Manson for your comfort level? If a cult hideout in Death Valley seems like the creepiest thing California has to offer, the next entry will correct that assumption. Hard. Number 3, Tule Lake. If Ballarat is creepy because a cult used it as a hideout, Tule Lake is something much worse. It is creepy because the United States government used it as a prison for its own citizens. In 1942, following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the federal government ordered the imprisonment of approximately 150,000 Japanese Americans. No trial, no charges, no evidence of wrongdoing, just executive orders and racial fear. 10 camps were built across the western United States. Tule Lake, in the far northeastern corner of California near the Oregon border, was the largest. And it was different. Tule Lake was the only camp designated as a segregation center. That meant it held the people the government considered the most problematic. Those who refused to sign loyalty oaths, those who protested conditions. Those who asked too many questions about why they were imprisoned for being Japanese in a country they were citizens of. At its peak, over 18,000 people were held at Tule Lake. It was ringed with barbed wire, guard towers, and tanks. In November 1943, martial law was declared after protests over working conditions. Prisoners were beaten. Ringleaders were held in a stockade within the camp, a prison within a prison. The government's response to people protesting injustice was more injustice. Here is what nobody tells you about Tule Lake. After the war, over 5,000 Japanese Americans at Tule Lake were pressured into renouncing their U.S. citizenship, under duress, inside a prison camp. Many were then scheduled for deportation to Japan, a country some had never visited. The renunciations were later challenged in court and most were restored. But the psychological damage of being forced to reject your own country while that country is holding you behind barbed wire left scars that have lasted generations. Historian Roger Daniels called Tule Lake the worst chapter in the entire relocation program. After the war, the government tried to erase the evidence. Buildings were dismantled, the camp was converted to farmland, but the concrete foundations remain. The jail building still stands. Castle Rock, the volcanic butte that loomed over the prisoners, still looms. Annual pilgrimages bring Japanese American families to the site. The emotional weight during these gatherings is described as overwhelming. The site is now a National Historic Landmark. Translation: the government built a prison for its own citizens, declared martial law when they protested, pressured them to renounce their citizenship, then tried to bulldoze the evidence. The concrete foundations refused to disappear. The families refused to forget. Picture this. You are standing on flat volcanic ground near the Oregon border. Castle Rock rises behind you. Concrete rectangles mark where barracks stood in orderly rows. A jail building still stands. Wind moves across the plain with nothing to stop it. 18,000 people lived here against their will. The government chose this place because there was nowhere to run. Standing in it, you understand why. There is nowhere to hide. There is nothing to hide behind. And the people who were imprisoned here had done nothing wrong. Drop your reaction to that below. Number 2, Bodie. If Tule Lake is California's darkest historical site, Bodie is its most famously cursed one, and the curse might actually work. Located in Mono County at 8,375 feet in the eastern Sierra, Bodie is maintained by California state parks in a condition called arrested decay. Nothing is restored. Everything is preserved exactly as found. 168 buildings still stand. You can peer through dusty windows and see pool tables mid-game. Store shelves stocked with 1880s merchandise, schoolroom desks arranged as if the students just left. They did just leave. About 140 years ago, Bodie was founded after gold was discovered in 1859. By 1880, it had 10,000 residents and 65 saloons. Murder, robbery, and gunfights were daily events. A young girl reportedly wrote in her diary before moving to Bodie, "Goodbye, God. I am going to Bodie." A newspaper later corrected this to "By God, I'm going to Bodie." A child's prayer became a marketing slogan. A minister named Warrington described the town as a sea of sin, lashed by the tempests of lust and passion. That was the professional religious assessment. Devastating fires in 1892 and 1932 destroyed most of the town. The population dwindled to near zero by the 1940s. And then the curse began. The Bodie curse states that anyone who takes even a small artifact from the town, a nail, a piece of wood, a pebble, will be struck by a string of bad luck until they return it. Park rangers maintain binders full of letters from people who mailed back stolen items along with apologetic notes. The letters describe car accidents, job losses, divorces, illnesses, and relationship breakdowns, all attributed to the curse. Whether you believe in curses or not, the letters are real. The binders are thick, and people keep writing them. One visitor described arriving at Bodie on a foggy morning and feeling the silence press against their skin. There is no food, gas, or commercial facility anywhere nearby. The final 3 miles of road are unpaved. The altitude makes your breathing labored. You are physically uncomfortable before you even enter the town. Then you look through a window and see someone's kitchen exactly as they left it in 1885. and you understand why people write apology letters to a ghost town. Picture this. Morning fog curls through 168 weathered buildings. You peer into a schoolroom, desks in rows, a lesson on the chalkboard, dust on everything. The town is not restored. It is not a museum. It is arrested, frozen mid-collapse, and somewhere in your pocket, you are resisting the urge to pick up a nail. Because the binders are thick, and you do not need that kind of luck. Would you take something from Bodie, or does the existence of those binder letters keep your hands in your pockets? Number 1. Wineville. You have never heard of Wineville, California. That is because the residents voted to erase it. In the late 1920s, Wineville was a small agricultural community in Riverside County, named for the grapes it grew. Then Gordon Stewart Northcott moved to town. Northcott was an immigrant who built a chicken ranch in Wineville in 1926. Between 1926 and 1928, he kidnapped boys from the Los Angeles area, brought them to the ranch, and did things to them that are difficult to describe in any medium. He murdered at least 3, possibly as many as 20. He forced his 14-year-old nephew, Sanford Clark, to witness the crimes. Northcott used quicklime to dispose of the remains. He buried bodies on the ranch. When 9-year-old Walter Collins disappeared in March 1928, the LAPD, which was already under investigation for corruption, did something almost as disturbing as the murders themselves. They found a boy, not Walter Collins, a different boy, a runaway from Iowa who had assumed Walter's identity, and they told Christine Collins, Walter's mother, that this was her son. She said no. She knew her own child. She insisted this boy was not Walter. Captain J.J. Jones of the LAPD had her committed to a psychiatric ward. A grieving mother was locked in a mental institution for correctly identifying that the boy the police returned to her was not her missing child. The imposter eventually confessed. He was not Walter Collins. Walter was never found. When Northcott's crimes were finally uncovered through the testimony of his nephew Sanford Clark, the scope of the horror became clear. Northcott fled to Canada with his mother, who was also involved in the murders. Both were caught. Northcott was convicted and hanged on October 2, 1930. His mother was also convicted, and then the residents of Wineville did something that no other town in California has done before or since. They voted to change the name of the town. Every single resident agreed that the word Wineville was now permanently associated with child murder. They chose Mira Loma, which means view from the hill in Spanish. The name change was supposed to be a fresh start. Here is what nobody tells you about fresh starts. The street signs kept the old name: Wineville Avenue, Wineville Road, Wineville Park. You can drive through the area today, which is now suburban Riverside County divided between East Vale and Jurupa Valley, and see the old name on every corner. The house where the murders occurred reportedly still stands, abandoned. The last couple who lived there left after learning what happened inside the walls. The Clint Eastwood film Changeling, starring Angelina Jolie, told Christine Collins' story in 2008. It focused not on the murders, but on a mother's war against a police department so corrupt it would rather commit a grieving woman to an asylum than admit it returned the wrong child. Translation: a California town was so traumatized by what happened within its borders that it voted to erase its own name. The street signs refused, the map refused, and now, almost a century later, the name Wineville is still there. On signs, on maps, and search results, a town tried to forget. The infrastructure remembered. Like this video if you just learned that California has a town that erased its own name, a ghost town with binders full of curse apology letters, a mountaintop where a hotel burned down on its exact anniversary after an apparition was sighted, a chemical plant town that serves as its own post-apocalyptic film set, and an internment camp where the government tried to bulldoze the evidence of imprisoning its own citizens. Subscribe because the next video covers the places California actively prevents you from visiting. And if you think creepy towns are unsettling, wait until you see what's behind the fences, the armed guards, and the restricted airspace. These 12 towns are real. Most are visitable. Some are on highways you have driven 100 times. The cursed ghost town is a state park you can enter for the price of a day pass. The internment camp is a national monument with annual pilgrimages. The town that erased its name is now a suburb in Riverside County, where people live and commute and pick up groceries without knowing that the street they drive on every morning is named after a place that voted to stop existing. Places remember what happened in them, even when the people are gone. The desert preserves, the forest conceals, the salt dissolves, the concrete foundations refuse to disappear. And a curse, whether supernatural or just the weight of guilt for taking something that does not belong to you, works because humans are the same everywhere. We carry what we take, we remember what we try to forget. A town can change its name, it cannot change its history. A forest can grow over a town, it cannot grow over the truth. And sometimes the creepiest thing about a California town is not what it looks like today. It is what happened there that nobody talks about anymore, except now you know. And knowing changes how every town looks from here on out.